The first time Meadowbrook Estates tried to teach me a lesson, they did it with a bright orange barrier and a laminated sign like I was some kind of animal that needed training. I stood there in the freezing dark of a Vermont morning coffee cooling in my hand, staring at that thing across my usual route and thinking, you have got to be kidding me. Because where they saw a private road, I saw 45 lost minutes, and in my business, 45 minutes in a snowstorm can decide whether an old woman gets to her doctor or gets stranded. My name is Stephen Xavier, and I run a snow removal business in Franklin County, Vermont. For 7 winters, I'd plowed the same backroad route. It wasn't fancy, but it worked, and it mattered. A lot of my clients were elderly, and when northern Vermont got hit, they depended on me. That old logging road had always been my shortcut between Maple Street and Route 12. Then a developer built Meadowbrook Estates on what used to be the Morrison farm, and somehow that gravel stretch became HOA property. Nobody warned me. They just blocked it overnight and acted like that settled everything. I called the number on the sign. Meadowbrook Estates, HOA, Veronica speaking. I explained who I was and why I used that road. Her answer came back cold. That road is private now, no commercial traffic. I said, it's gravel. I've been using it for 7 years. I'm not damaging anything. She said, that sounds like your problem, Mr. Xavier. That was Veronica Donnelly, HOA president, a woman who could turn a bake sale into a police matter. I asked to come to a meeting. She said January. I asked if we could work something out sooner. She told me to submit something in writing and hung up. So I took the long route. That very first day cost me nearly an hour. My phone rang nonstop with worried clients asking where I was. The one that got to me was Mrs. Patterson, 83 years old, lived alone on Birch Lane. She called 3 times because she had a doctor's appointment the next morning and needed her driveway cleared. When I finally got there that night, it was after 9. She opened the door, looked out at the snow, then at me, and said, I thought maybe you forgot me. I told her never and got to work. This wasn't just about my schedule. My route was built around people who needed help fast when winter got ugly. I tried every reasonable thing I could think of. I wrote letters. I offered to pay for seasonal access. I even drove to Veronica's house. She barely opened the door, told me the matter was closed, then threatened to call the police when I mentioned elderly residents being affected. That winter hit hard. I hired a part-time driver just to survive the season. I still lost clients. I still fell behind. Then came the blizzard in late February, 30 inches in 2 days. My helper's truck broke down. Around 2 in the morning, Mrs. Patterson called me crying. She had chest pains, 911 was on the way, and the ambulance couldn't get up her unplowed driveway because I hadn't reached her yet. I dropped everything and drove through snow so thick it looked like static. When I got there, the ambulance lights were flashing at the bottom of her lane. I lowered the blade and tore into that driveway like a madman. The EMTs got to her. It turned out to be severe anxiety, not a heart attack, but when I visited her the next day in the hospital, she whispered, I thought I was going to die before they reached me. That was when this stopped being inconvenient and became personal. When spring came, I started digging. Property maps, deeds, easements, surveys. Every night I was at the county clerk's office or my kitchen table with papers spread everywhere. The old logging road, legally Meadowbrook, had title to it. Fine. But then I found something better. The only real access road into Meadowbrook Estates, the road residents used to reach Route 12, wasn't owned by the HOA at all. It belonged to George Morrison, 92 years old, last member of the family that had owned the original farm. The HOA had an easement to use it, but George still owned the road itself. I found him in an assisted living facility. He told me Veronica had once tried to bully him into selling that last road cheap. Then I told him my story, the barrier, the route Mrs. Patterson, the ambulance, all of it. He listened, nodded once, and said, how much are you offering? I said $25,000. He stuck out his hand. Sold. But when that HOA woman starts choking on her own attitude, I want to hear about it. That was the twist Veronica never saw coming. She thought she'd taken away my access. What she actually gave me was leverage. By early July, after the lawyers finished everything I owned, the only road Meadowbrook Estates used to reach the highway, I hired attorneys and checked every line. The easement George had given the HOA wasn't untouchable. With proper notice, a new owner could terminate it and offer a new one. So in August, I sent certified mail. Attached was my proposed new deal. The HOA could keep using the access road for $1 a year. My only condition was reciprocal access across the logging road they had blocked from me. Veronica answered through a law firm. Threats, bluster, bad faith accusations, extortion, nonsense, the works. My attorney answered everyone calmly. As the deadline got closer, residents started calling me because their board had been telling them it was all a minor dispute. Tom Fletcher even came to see me in person. I told him I gave your board a solution months ago. Ask Veronica why she'd rather strand her own neighborhood than give me the same access she wants from me. November 1st came and the old easement expired. I didn't make a show of it. I just waited for snow. When the first real storm hit in mid-November, I went out before dawn, installed a heavy gate across the access road, locked it, and then drove off to plow my route using the logging road because I was done honoring rules from people who had shown me none. Mrs. Patterson was my third stop that morning instead of my last. She looked out the window and said, "You're early." By 7:30, my phone was exploding. Residents screamed, threatened lawsuits. One guy said he was calling the police. I told him, please do. A sheriff's deputy called later, and after I gave him the deeds notice and easement paperwork, he confirmed what I already knew. I was within my rights. Veronica called that afternoon furious. "This childish stunt ends now," she snapped. I said, "Great, so you're ready to sign." She started threatening me again. I reminded her that she was feeling exactly what she'd made me feel, except I was still offering a solution. She refused. So every time it snowed, the gate stayed closed. Not for emergencies. If someone had a real emergency, I opened it. But routine access. That was between Meadowbrook residents and the HOA board that kept refusing to negotiate. People parked outside the gate, carpooled, missed work, got angry. Local news picked it up. Mrs. Patterson even gave an interview defending me. Then things got even uglier. One January morning, I found my lock cut. I replaced it, installed a trail camera, and 2 nights later it happened again. This time the camera caught Veronica Donnelly herself climbing out of a Mercedes with bolt cutters and another board member beside her. Deputy Morgan watched the footage and laughed. That afternoon, Veronica was charged with criminal mischief and trespassing. That was the moment her little empire cracked. Residents who'd defended her before were done. A recall petition took off. Tom Fletcher led it. And right in the middle of all that, I got a call that shook me harder than I expected. Dorothy Chin, cancer patient, needed to get to chemotherapy. Her voice wasn't angry, it was scared. I opened the gate immediately. That call reminded me of something important when you're fighting for justice. It's easy to start enjoying the pressure too much. Veronica had forgotten that real people get crushed when leaders turn everything into a power contest. I didn't want to become my own version of her, so I sent one final compromise through Tom. I dropped the logging road demand. All I wanted now was a fair easement fee and an apology from Veronica. She refused that too. A week later, the special election happened and Veronica got destroyed. 7 votes. That was all she had left. Tom became the new HOA president, called me that night and said, "Let's fix this like adults." At the next board meeting, they slid a new agreement across the table. Fair market payment for the access road. Then Tom said, "And we're giving you permanent access across the logging road." Veronica pushed that closure through without good reason. We want to fix it. Months of fighting lawyers' panic and criminal charges, all to end at the exact reasonable agreement I'd asked for in the first place. We signed that night. Permanent easements. Properly recorded. No future board could yank them away on a whim. The war was over. Veronica pleaded no contest, paid restitution, did community service, and sold her house. I never saw her again. Tom turned the HOA into something sane. My business recovered and grew. Dorothy Chin beat cancer. Mrs. Patterson stayed my client until the end of her life. It's this power without wisdom turns petty fast. And petty people always think they're defending principle right up until the same rules swing back their way. Documentation matters, patience matters, knowing the law matters. But staying human matters too, because the people suffering inside a bad system aren't always the ones who built it. These days when snow starts falling before dawn and my headlights hit that old logging road again, I think about how one honest conversation could have prevented all of it. I also think about how some people never learn until consequences speak in a language they understand. The gate stays open now. My route is secure. My clients get taken care of. And every time I save those 45 minutes, it feels like justice with tire tracks. So let me ask you this, when someone abuses power and only changes after they suffer the same thing they did to others, is that justice? Or just revenge in a cleaner outfit? Tell me in the comments where you stand. Who was really right? Who crossed the line? And have you ever had to fight back against somebody who thought the rules were only for other people?
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video. Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.